Okay, it is 9 o'clock on June 19th, 2012. Call to order the Monte County Board of Supervisors. Gail, could we get a roll call?
Yes, Mr. Chair and board members, let the record show that all board members are present this morning.
That's
With regard to inclusionary housing, Pebble Beach Company has proposed payment of an in lieu fee to comply with the inclusionary housing requirement for the project. The county's inclusionary housing ordinance allows for this type of modification based on a finding of unusual or unforeseen circumstances. Pebble Beach Company proposed an in lieu fee versus on-site compliance due to the lack of services and schools within the Del Monte Forest. The Housing Advisory Committee, after considering a number of options for compliance, recommended that Pebble Beach Company comply with the 20% inclusionary housing requirement by constructing moderate income units at the Pebble Beach Company Corporation Yard site, with a preference that they be rental housing units, and payment of an in lieu fee for any remaining fractional obligation. Exceptions may be allowed to the income level requirements based on unusual and infrequent situations. The HAC acknowledged the lack of residential serving uses and public transportation, both of which are desirable when developing very low and low income affordable housing. The Planning Commission considered the HAC's recommendation and other testimony and recommended that the Board of Supervisors consider requiring the applicant provide the required number of units as on-site inclusionary housing at the Corporation Yard site at the affordability levels required by the ordinance, and to pay an in lieu fee for any remaining fractional amount. The Planning Commission also recommended to the Board that Pebble Beach Company be allowed to identify an alternative site on the Monterey Peninsula prior to construction of the inclusionary units at the Corporation Yard, and to request substitution of sites, provided that county consideration of any such request would be subject to all appropriate environmental review and public hearing processes. Due to zoning constraints at the Corporation Yard site and the lack of services within the Del Monte Forest, county staff has prepared a slightly modified version of the Planning Commission's recommendation for the Board's consideration. Staff recommends the development of 18 to 22 units on the project site at the required affordability levels, and payment of an in lieu fee for any remaining units, provided that the total number of units at the Corporation Yard shall be limited to 22 units as analyzed in the final EIR and shown on this figure. Staff also recommends that Pebble Beach Company be allowed to identify an alternative site on the Monterey Peninsula prior to construction of the inclusionary units at the Corporation Yard, and to request substitution of sites, provided that county consideration of any such request would be subject to all appropriate environmental review and public hearing processes.
Now I do want to address affordable housing. The staff report makes the following recommendation for affordable housing compliance. Build 18 to 22 units on site at the Pebble Beach Corporate Yard, with the units to be very low, low, and moderate income. Because of recognition that the corporate yard has limitations as an affordable housing site, staff recommends giving the company the option to propose a substitute location on the Monterey Peninsula, which would need to be built within 5 years. If that fails to happen, however, the company would still be required to build at the corporate yard despite its many limitations. As you know, we have proposed paying an in lieu fee to comply with the Affordable Housing Ordinance. Let me first summarize what the ordinance states about in lieu fees. The ordinance allows any applicant to request payment of an in lieu fee. To qualify, an applicant has to demonstrate that the on-site location is unsuitable for affordable housing. The ordinance lists lack of access to services and zoning which requires large lot development as reasons why a specific site would be unsuitable for affordable housing. We feel the corporate yard is an unsuitable location for these reasons. First, it is an isolated area that lacks access to services. The site is in the Monterey School District, and the nearest public schools are 4 miles away. The nearest shopping centers are over 3 miles away in the cities of Monterey and Pacific Grove. Finally, no public transit is available at the site, so residents would need to make frequent car trips to access services. Second, the subdivision plan for the corporate yard consists of 10 large lots similar to existing neighborhood patterns. While we acknowledge that zoning for the corporate yard would permit up to an additional 18 affordable units, we believe placing high-density affordable housing within a large lot residential subdivision makes little sense from a planning perspective. This map, get it to come up. This map illustrates just how isolated the corporate yard is for an affordable housing location. For all these reasons, we believe an in-lieu fee will best meet the needs of the county with respect to affordable housing. As calculated by county housing staff, our in-lieu fee is a very significant amount, $5 million. This fee could be leveraged with other financing to build far more affordable housing units in other locations than the 18 that would be required at the corporate yard. Also, the full in-lieu fee is paid up front under the ordinance, while construction of on-site affordable units is pro rata and could take a very long time. Finally, payment of an in-lieu fee gives the county the most flexibility. For all these reasons, we believe that the payment of $5 million fee is the best solution. That said, we do recognize that concerns have been expressed about the payment of an in-lieu fee. The concerns arise from the fact that payment of an in-lieu fee does not guarantee that affordable housing will be built on the Monterey Peninsula, or, for that matter, anywhere else. But we don't think that building at an unsuitable location in order to guarantee building something on the Monterey Peninsula makes sense. Instead, although not a guarantee, we have a modified proposal that provides assurance Pebble Beach Company will do everything in its power to make sure affordable housing gets built on the Monterey Peninsula. Our proposal is as follows. We would still pay a $5 million in-lieu fee up front to comply with the ordinance. The county would hold that fee in a trust account. Pebble Beach Company would then work with county staff to identify and entitle an alternate location within 5 years on the Monterey Peninsula. If successful, the alternate project would be built with funds from the trust account. If we are unsuccessful in finding an alternate location, which we don't expect to happen, we would agree to pay a $2 million penalty at the end of that 5-year period. We recognize this penalty doesn't guarantee that affordable housing will be built on the peninsula. However, by putting $2 million at risk, we are demonstrating our commitment to work diligently with the county to find an acceptable location on the Monterey Peninsula to build affordable housing. The basic difference between staff's recommendation and our proposal is that after 5 years, if affordable housing is not entitled or built on the Monterey Peninsula, under the staff proposal, we would be required to build at corporate yard. Under our proposal, we would be required to pay a $2 million penalty on top of the $5 million in lieu fee. We think our proposal is a better solution than requiring us to build at the corporate yard location, which virtually everyone agrees is less than ideal for affordable housing. In the end, we recognize and respect that the Board of Supervisors is the final decision maker on affordable housing compliance on our project. While we prefer our proposal for all the reasons I have stated, we will do whatever you determine to be best for meeting the affordable housing needs of Monterey County. That concludes my presentation. I would respectfully ask that you approve the project permits.
I think we do come to this issue of what about the inclusionary housing component. I think we all know that we want the housing built, but the location of the corporation site, for me, is not an appropriate location. It's not called the family yard, the neighborhood yard, the community yard. It's called the corporation yard. just by title, it doesn't sound terribly appropriate. And it is not, in my mind, near any of the services. It is, in fact, isolated. There's no schools close by. There's no shopping close by. There's no entertainment, and there's certainly limited, if any, recreation for children. For that reason, I believe that there is another location that will serve better as far as simply a trip reducer, not a congestion generator. The specifics of that site I can't really get to right now, but to hear the City of Pacific Grove offering up their collaboration and their interest in finding a site, I know the City of Monterey and the City of Carmel has expressed the same interest, because there are locations that will be well suited. I think we just need to recognize we need to be aggressive in that effort. And I think the company will be. I don't know how many of you have ever had the pleasure of doing business with Bill Peracchi. I know there's several of you in this room that work with him, and I know there's several people that have worked with him in the past. There is no way on the face of this earth that Mr. Peracchi is going to walk away from $2 million based on non-performance of a promise. This man watches every dollar. He's probably one of the toughest CEOs I know, and he will keep his staff up all night to make sure that every opportunity is explored. So this is not some sort of good faith gesture just to buy out of the affordable housing component. If it was, they'd have just said, we'll offer up $7 million and we're done with this discussion. So I firmly believe that he will be coming back and that there will be a project, and I think it will be a collaborative project brought forward by whatever jurisdictions it is in within the greater Monterey Peninsula area as they plan for that project. I think that process will be very similar to the one that's before us today in regards to this project in the United States. When Monterey was the first capital, there was a piece of property in Monterey, 135 acres, that was dedicated at that time to be a location for the capital. As you travel south on Highway 1, on your left-hand side, right across from the Macy's Shopping Center, is the old Capitol site. It's the foothills of that forested vista called Jack's Peak. And in 1991, the Pebble Beach Company came forward with a proposal to build on that site 737 housing units. That was an extremely contentious project. I know you all think that in this day and age we have the most controversial projects. But when I was on the City Council and when I sat through those hearings and when I was on the Planning Commission, that project was a very, very hot button. It went from 737 units down to 234 units, down to the city's proposal for 140 with an alternate plan for 70 units. The move at that time was to try to come up with some sort of solution. And when I was on the City Council, I proposed that if the Pebble Beach project was developed, that the city would move forward with the dedication of that land as open space to the City of Monterey. That proposal was actually developed into an MOU. That MOU was placed in escrow, and there it sat. And I want to say that I have not forgotten that, nor have Mark and Bill and the city manager of Monterey. I have a letter from Chuck De La Sala, the mayor of Monterey, saying they still believe that the dedication of that site is an appropriate thing to do. I've had very good discussions with Mr. Stowell and Mr. Peracchi, and they have proposed some language that would afford the dedication of that property to an appropriate public agency whose responsibility is stewardship of public land. Simply, what that is as far as the development of the inclusionary housing, should that occur and that housing is entitled within a 5-year period, and the $2 million is not forfeited, that the county would that the company would then dedicate that property to the appropriate land use jurisdiction. I will just read those terms, and Mark, if you could come forward at some point, or Bill, and just make sure I'm not misinterpreting. I will go ahead and read what it is. It is, in the event that an affordable housing site is successfully identified, acquired, and entitled in the greater Monterey Peninsula planning area pursuant to Condition 18, and therefore no additional $2 million in lieu fee contribution is required of the applicant under such condition, the applicant agrees to make an irrevocable offer to transfer title to approximately 135 acres of land, commonly known as the Old Capitol site in the city of Monterey, APN number attached, to the county or any entity approved by the county for parkland purposes, subject to any existing title exceptions and other requirements affecting the land, and pursuant to terms and conditions acceptable to the applicant, including the county's agreement that preservation of the natural resources on the Old Capitol site shall be applied or credited as mitigation if needed for any affordable housing or other project identified by the applicant. Prior to issuance of building permits for an affordable housing project in the greater Monterey Bay area pursuant to Chapter 18. Condition 18, the applicant will be required to make an irrevocable offer to transfer the Old Capitol site to the county or an entity approved by the county. Mark or Bill?
And Supervisor Potter, Chair Potter, members of the board, Mark Stillwell for the record. David, I think that accurately characterizes what we've talked about.
And Mark, I can't tell you, how much I appreciate this. It says a lot about the company. It certainly says a lot about the community's desire to preserve valued pieces of property. I think you already have 635 acres of habitat within the plan itself. This would add basically another 135 acres within the greater Monterey area. I think this is historically appropriate, environmentally appropriate, and a true benefit to the community as a whole. I greatly appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, Wendy Strimley,
Ms.
if I might
Strimley.
just add one technical point.
Thank you. Unless there's any other comments, I'm prepared to move the staff recommendation with the substitution of the in lieu fee as described, $5 million, $2 million penalty for failure to perform in 5 years, and also the attachment of the offer to transfer title of the Old Capitol site to an appropriate agency when or if the task of developing an alternative site is found within the 5-year period and entitled. Mr. Novo.
And does
Could
that
I get a
include,
second to that, though? Just second.
Does that include staff's recommended changes to the Pebble Beach condition?
Yes.
And
Pebble Beach property, or we're going to have it in Monterey Peninsula?
Well, like the recommendation is that it be it can be anywhere on the greater Monterey Peninsula, but specific to your concerns without being too specific, I can tell you that I personally know of 2 very, very good sites within Pebble Beach, perhaps 3, and they would have water.
And support that. And I do hope that any site that's found for the affordable housing is within the footprint of the Del Monte Forest, so that it's close to work for the people who are probably working in the area, and also would have water within our lifetime. So thank you.
All right, great. Unless there's any other statements, all those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. Those opposed? And I sincerely thank you all for all your time, efforts, and your patience. That done, I believe we're adjourned for the day. Thank you. Yep. And we took care of 30.